Great. So BCN, we've been in operations for 20 years. Up until now, we have not done a good job of self-promotion. We're not really out there rah rah rah. This is going to be our first year of an annual report, but we are a full ISP. We have field services, support services, data and internet services, and managed services. So the full spectrum of an ISP. Next slide, please. 2021, we completed the backbone fiber to Tasqueyac Cree Nation. We've completed the fiber to all the anchor tenants within the community. We've also increased the bandwidth from 1 gigabit to 10 gigabits for the community. To Tasqueyac, we have backhaul to TCN. I mean, we have a tower that shoots fixed wireless to War and York Factory, two other communities. So currently, the reason why we don't promote ourselves is because we're at maximum capacity. We have waiting lists amongst all of our communities. We have C-band satellite to 16 satellite communities as well. We've completed a lot of fiber projects, and we currently have a few other fiber projects on the go. We started Pine Creek and Lake Manitoba this year with, actually last year, it was with Clear Sky Connections in partnership with Clear Sky. BCN has now taken the lead on those. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, satellite projects. We've transitioned to new transponders, increasing the capacity by 8 times with Barons Lands, Northlands, Sisseya-Dene, and Shamattawa. Service installations, satellite upgrades. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a great project, Nelson House. This was in partnership with Clear Sky Connections the last number of years. We connected a fiber backhaul to the city of Thompson to Nelson House, and BCN did the last mile. Most of our connections within our communities are a wireless distribution. However, Nelson House has their own ISP. BCN provides all the technical support so that Nelson House can run their own ISP. They generate their own revenue. Currently, they're generating $85,000 a year in revenue. A month, sorry. Thanks for correcting me. And so this is our our template. This is the model that we would like to show to, I guess, Canada for sure, that we can do these projects. We've successfully completed them, and this is a model for growth. One of our challenges has been with the federal government in funding. Currently, the federal approach has been paternalistic. It's a byproduct of Indian affairs, colonialism. Nelson House went ahead with the last mile prior to approval, and right now they're in the process of getting reimbursed. However, that doesn't jive with the federal government, so that's a major issue within Canada. It also has to deal with our pilot project as well with OneWeb. We've asked a couple times from ISA to approve or support our pilot project for our low Earth orbit project. And the only response is, okay, hold on, don't spend any money yet. So Nelson House was told that they could get their money in 2025 if they wait to complete their project. So these are the challenges, and this is the environment that we currently exist in within Canada, especially within northern Manitoba. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so here's just a rundown of all our funding submissions. We went through our partnership with Clear Sky. We submitted 6 applications to the Universal Broadband Fund. So we've been waiting 20 months now, and we're hearing that ISED is now looking at Manitoba. They've awarded some projects in BC, Alberta, and Ontario. Manitoba is still on the waiting list. However, we were just awarded $6.5 million to continue our C-band satellite service to our communities. Our funding was lapsing in September. So now we have another 3 years of old technology. Okay, next slide. Right, so Clear Sky Connections has ceased operations August 2022. On the left side is our original applications with ISED. So they're in excess of $300 million. We have resubmitted our LEO application with OneWeb. Our original application was with Telesat. The government's plan was to invest within Telesat to offer subsidized low Earth orbit in the amount of $35 per megabit per second. Currently, the OneWeb package that we have resubmitted is going for $1,000 per megabit per second. So ideally, if the government's plan worked with Telesat, I would totally endorse it. But because of technical difficulties, Telesat being unavailable, we have resubmitted with OneWeb. And the fiber applications as well. We've had a lot of challenges with Manitoba Hydro Telecom and the privatization of to ExploreNet of the dark fiber. Two of our projects are pushed back, Pine Creek and Lake Manitoba, to next year. So we have to wait 12 months to connect. And this has to deal with the transfer of ownership, the privatization, and this dealt. So these setbacks provincially are harming our communities to provide to get connectivity to their communities. And one other project for Southeast Resource Development Corporation, Little Black River. We have funding from ISED on a different project, and they're 5 kilometers away from the dark fiber. The project is feasible if we could connect there, and we have the resources to connect it. We have the contractors ready to go. However, we were denied access to that location. We were told to go 40 kilometers north, which increases the cost by $2 million. So that makes the project unfeasible. So these are the current challenges with MHT, ExploreNet, and I guess the feds too. So next slide, please. So here's this is just a rundown of all the applications that we have had. One other aspect I'd like to talk about is in partnership with Clear Sky, Bill Murdoch and myself, we approached the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs looking for a resolution. However, due to the unstable political environment within the AMC, there was no AGM, there was no floor to bring this resolution forward. So hopefully we're waiting on the new provincial Indigenous governments to I would say operate effectively. We need to get some support from the local Indigenous politicians as well. We want to show that we're united. So this is also another current challenge that we have. Next slide, please. So these ones I just want to run through quickly. The first 3 communities, first applications is 45 million. I just want to identify that we are striving to connect Manitoba. We do have applications in. So next slide. These are the breakdowns. Okay, next slide. Our LEO application, satellite connectivity. Okay, next slide's fine. Okay, next slide. Okay, OneWeb and Rock Networks. This is a low Earth orbit option. It does provide faster transmission, lower latency, and it's geared for more residential and business solutions. Next slide. So earlier in July, we asked ISED for a pilot project because our funding was lapsing for our C-band satellite. We wanted to highlight one or 3 communities. We were denied at that time, but ISED was saying, "Hey, we found more money to extend your C-band satellite for 3 more years." I put in a written application with ISED last month, asking for them to support us for $33,000 for transportation and installation costs. And the response has been, okay, we'll think about it, but don't spend any money, so don't proceed. Us at BCN, we feel like we have to move on to find solutions for our communities, demonstrate that we could do this, and also it enhances our technical team's expertise, and allows our network to actually prove that this does work, that this is a viable solution. Okay, next slide. So Manitou CP is the community that we have selected. We were installing it last week. Okay, that's good. Next slide, please. And it's actually started working on the 24th, yesterday. We had some hiccups. There was 2 transponders. One wasn't connecting properly. But the technical aspect, we've been working through it, and it has been operating effectively as of yesterday. Okay. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this is an example of the units that we have installed. It's 2 transponders, and we are connecting to the OneWeb Rock Networks low Earth orbit. And it is working. We had some issues. One of our challenges is the flying communities. They have the airlines lose our equipment, or it gets lost, or we lose dates and times, and so it's very challenging for our crew to get in there and have to wait in these flying communities where there's no hotels. They got to stay in nursing stations or in schools, sleeping on floors and whatnot. Yeah, and ideally we would like to get some sort of approval from ISED. These flying communities have winter roads from January to March. And for us to fly in this equipment to 24 communities, it's very expensive. It's cost prohibitive. Ideally, if we don't hear word within the next few months of approval for our LEO projects, then we may have to wait 1 year or endure way more expenses to fly them in if they get approved. And one thing I like to say is Justin Trudeau made a commitment that 98% of Canada will be connected to the internet by 2030. Fortunately for Canada, Northern Manitoba actually equals 2% of Canada. So if they don't fund us and everybody else gets funded, they've achieved their goals. So I just want to highlight that. That is a risk for Manitoba. So I just want to point that out. So I'm very pessimistic about that. So next slide. Okay, that's not good. So that's supposed to be a map of Northern Manitoba. Okay, that's the next slide. We're done. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah. Again.
Do we have any questions, comments?
All right.
Hello, I'm Dara Blackwater, and I was just wondering if you could tell us more about the process of what it took to get the LEOs, and from the first time you had the idea to do this, to launching them, and what was that, and getting licenses and all that kind of stuff. What was that process like for your organization?
Coming into the organization, I've been here since July last year. We were told that Canada's invested with Telesat. I was told that we're in bed with Telesat as well. And just up until recently, Telesat came out and said they can't deliver. So it's kind of, since then, in the last half year, we're looking for other solutions. What else is out there in the world that actually works, that's actually feasible for Northern Manitoba? And so OneWeb was a solution. That is feasible, that is workable, that it's the only solution currently that's available. Starlink itself, they're more residential. They have control. So for us as an ISP, we need more control. We have firewalls. We need to be able to use our network as well. So that was why we went with OneWeb.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Tanya Smith with the First Nations Technology Council. Thank you for your presentation. Your point about Trudeau's commitments and the funding, that's something that we have been talking about for a number of months and years. And I know the Auditor General is looking into all of ISED's commitments with funding and the actuality of achieving these targets. And I'm wondering if you haven't already, would you be able to share what you just shared with us through that process in terms of actually being able to achieve the targets and some of the practical reasons why that's not possible, so that this whole process can be re-looked at and reframed and redone, in my view? Okay.
Yeah. Actually, just waiting for the answer for the process. I'm very pessimistic. We have $300 million in the applications. If we get 15%, that's still 45 million. That's a lot. But really, we want equality. You know, we actually want to be like, we want to bring city internet to the north. We want to actually be included for justice, for education. You know, so mental health. So we just want our communities to be like a Canadian, right? So the process itself. In my opinion, I was a former bureaucrat, and all these policies and they have an out for that 2%. So what we're trying to do is make the case saying, hey, Manitoba is here. We want to be treated like everybody else. We want to be included within Canada, and here's an option. Provincially, we're having challenges with MHT. All of our projects right now, original projects plan was to tie into the dark fiber with Manitoba. It runs through traditional lands, and it's been privatized by Manitoba Hydro, and it's given away. But the funding aspect, if we had the funding, we would have to ramp up internally our operations, and then we would actually have to contract out the work to bring it. I know we can talk about large projects this afternoon and talk about the challenges that brings. But it's the policymakers in Ottawa that hold the purse strings, and our relationship with Ottawa. My experience has mostly been through Indian Affairs. So with ISED, I see it's the same crew. And for the last 150 years hasn't been so great. So that's the best answer I could give.
Hi everybody, it's Rhea Doolin again. It's probably less of a question, more of a comment. But yeah, this just illuminates the fact that we were talking about earlier with the commitments under UNDRIP. A lot of these processes have been in place and established for the status quo prior to these legislative commitments. We need to reassess, how the Universal Broadband Fund, like how it was decided, how, every single aspect, all of those rules, that's an old process. It's out of alignment with the legislative commitments that they've made. I'd be curious to know if there's any exploration too of things like rights of way, like have those been something that have been reassessed in this era of reconciliation? So this is just a comment, less of a question, but just something to think about. Maybe that's my point.
Okay, great comment. One thing I'll say is there's some flying communities, some satellite communities that were talking to some chiefs that were very angry. It was misdirected at BCN because we were providing terrible internet. But when there was lockdowns and there was children learning at home, that was not available in these communities, whereas everywhere else in Canada, it was a lot easier. It was available. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. There's been some more I heard some more militant discussions about, well, this dark fiber is going through our lands. Maybe we should just accidentally dig it up or something. But that's something else. Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Maureen James from Canadian Internet Registration Authority. We can be part of the problem because we're a funder, very tiny funder. But I was curious, you know, UBF has its limitations. Funders like us have our limitations. There are other sources. And one of the things, knowing how small our funding piece is, we're really trying to build awareness around the need for more funding from other sources than government because the gaps are huge. But so that's one thing. I concur with all the comments about taking a look at UBF for sure. Are there other sources that you're aware of that could be either funding or private equity that you work with? Is that an option that you consider or other businesses like yours consider?
Okay, great. The reason why BCN exists is because none of the major telcos would service our communities. The business case is not there. The distances are so great and the environment is really harsh. If it was feasible for other major telcos, they would have already done it. And so BCN is filling the gap. We have looked at, well, we are exploring other opportunities because that example for Black River where there's a $2 million cost overrun, sure, the feds may up their funding, but we're still short 1.2 million. And even if we split that 3 ways, BCN has already committed 360,000 for this project. I'm not going to go to my board and say, hey, let's spend another 300,000 on this project and split the cost. The business case is not there. Yeah, working with First Mile Connectivity Consortium, BCN is one of the regions across the country. I think if we collectively as a whole got together and became under one group, then those opportunities might be feasible. But currently, regionally, there's no business case for it right now. Yeah. Good. Good. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jason.